Hello YouTube, this is me, Starcrane. You might have noticed that Penacony's 2.1 story has many points of view, and not every instance is even in chronological order, which could be really confusing. Only after replaying the story 2 times could I really understand it, more or less. So today I'm gonna explain, analyze and summarize lore as easily as possible, and maybe even theorize a little. But before explaining the story as a whole and making my conclusions, let me begin with story of each character independently, and in more or less proper order. The most interesting part is that only now, after finishing 2.1 story, can we understand and or reconsider many events that happened in 2.0, so don't be surprised if you see older footage.
I am the humble Aventurine of the IPC's Strategic Investment Department.
Sigonia is a harsh desert planet where only a few nomadic tribes live. 2 of them are Katikans and Avgin. These tribes had a long story of wars, probably because they all struggle to survive. According to IPC, they have their own beliefs, independent from Eon system. But I think it's just that they interpret certain Eons in their own way. Maybe even Shippy, since she has 3 faces. According to their beliefs, one born under a blessing of their deity, Gallagher Triclops, will be lucky for their whole life. As far as I understand, the sign of Triclops' blessing is a rain. Probably Avgin believed that because rain is a very rare occasion on a desert planet. One day, a boy named Kakavasha, who we know by the name Aventurine, was born in Avgin. It was raining during that day,
Mommy, the rain. It's raining.
which made his mother believe that the boy was blessed.
Such a blessed child.
And in fact, no matter what, he never lost during his life. Later on, during one of the Katikan raids on Avgin, the boy's parents were killed.
When Mama said goodbye that day, how many catechins were like jackals hot on your heels?
He and his bigger sister only survived because they were able to trick Katikans by playing dead.
Hide and seek. You and Big Sis playing dead.
Since then, only she could watch over her little brother. Somewhere around that time, IPC discovered Sigonia 4 and established independent Sigonia sovereignty. Simply put, IPC sent their soldiers and built a colony on this planet to seemingly stop war between tribes and put them under their protection. But in fact, they only needed this planet for mining resources. By the way, Aventurine probably visited this colony once. His memories in the theme park could be confirmation for this.
Are you the same as those men in black in the sky? This place. It's so tall. There are so many flowers here. Big Sis, this one's for you. If these leaves could be brought back, would they bloom into new flowers? We're going home? But I don't want to go back yet. So fun here. I want to stay here forever.
Kakavasha missed his parents and was risking his life to care for his sister, not to lose his last family member. But one day, not even IPC's protection prevented Katikans from attacking Avgin. And it was only a matter of time for Avgin to be extinct completely. His sister foresaw this, so she told him to run away as soon as they attack.
The Katikins are coming, so run, Kakavasha. Do not be afraid.
This last time, it was one of the most bloody fights, known as Second Extinction Event. Avgin fought back but still lost the war.
Resulting in 6,728 deaths.
Kakavasha's sister was killed along with all of the remaining Avgin, but being blessed by Triclops, Kakavasha was able to escape.
You ran away without looking back, just as she told me to.
He ran away, eventually being picked by IPC. Time passed, Kakavasha grew up and eventually got enslaved. He was tortured by his master, but survived every instance.
People paid to brand me, put me in chains, place me in the gallows, and bury me in the golden sands.
At some point, Kakavasha had enough, which caused him to kill his master using his very own manacles. And after that, he was put in custody. After an unknown chain of events, Kakavasha stood before Jade, one of the 10 Stonehearts, a group of IPC employees that bear cornerstones, remains of Clipot's body that gives their bearers power near to emanators. Presumably, their cornerstones are even more important than their lives. Jade admitted Kakavasha's potential and gave him everything, turning him into Aventurine we know.
Wealth, status, power. The IPC will give you whatever you want.
Gallagher's blessing, combined with his Gambling Edition, helped him to reach corporate highs. As he never failed, he eventually became one of 10 Stonehearts and obtained his cornerstone, Aventurine. Long after, Diamond, boss of the Stonehearts and emanator of preservation, chose Aventurine to resolve Penacony's case after receiving Watchmaker's invitation. I will dive into Penacony's story later. For now, let's just skip it. IPC's mission was to reclaim Penacony, former IPC prison currently under control of the family. Of course, family is aware of IPC's intents and would never let in one of the highest members with powers near to emanators. So, Aventurine and his team had very complex 3-layered plan. Layer 1. Seemingly, Aventurine wanted to trick Sunday into believing that he surrendered his own cornerstone and thus gave his powers away to gain Sunday's trust and be able to operate freely. So, after arriving at Penacony and meeting Astral Express, Aventurine gave Sunday a case containing topaz disguising as Aventurine, but doesn't really look like it, and a bag containing jade that does look like it, secretly buried in a pile of cheap gems. Then Aventurine tried to make an offer,
One you can't refuse.
to team up with Trailblazer, but failed because Acheron interrupted them.
What are you doing in my room?
He also tried to persuade Maskful, Sparkle, but she refused, but she gave him a hint that was completely lost due to translation issue. You see, when she says,
Here's a hint for you. Since you can't convince anyone, why don't you find a rock to be friends with? At least a rock won't be able to refute your arguments.
probably they translated it that way for the sake of pun, but she actually should have said befriend a mute. That's why Aventurine started to look for Robin in the first place. He thought she's a mute because of her lost voice. Before looking for Robin, he got to layer 2 of his plan. Aventurine wanted to expose himself from the very beginning to prevent any suspicion. So he sent Dr. Ratio to betray him and leak his plan on purpose, so Sunday will think he has Topaz and Aventurine. During Ratio's turn, Aventurine wanted to meet Robin,
But she died. Right before my very eyes.
so now he had only one option left. Aventurine knew that Trailblazer had Stellaron inside her and that Acheron is an emanator, so he probably wanted them to become allies, to be able to use them in his future plans. To make Astral Express look for Acheron, he made a deal with the Memo Keeper, Black Swan, who brought Trailblazer to him after a fight with Sam. Then he showed her a memory of Robin's death, recorded using light cone technology, resulting in Astral Express accepting his offer to team up. After that, Dr. Ratio was back from Sunday's office with good news, as Sunday took the bait and invited Aventurine. Also, he told Aventurine about the death of Firefly. This intel will be very important later. And later, as you know, Sunday interrogated Aventurine, putting on him Harmony's spell. So after 17 hours, Aventurine will turn into family member by losing his voice and becoming the Harmony's puppet, if he wouldn't help Sunday to find the culprit. So Aventurine took his bag with gems and before leaving stated his true intentions on how he was going to reclaim Penacony.
By the way, before you go, I have a personal question. Do you truly wish to bring about the destruction of this world?
Just assuming now that every time I roll the dice, there's a possibility of achieving this particular outcome, then I would be quite happy to make that wager.
Finally, with little time left to live, Aventurine begins to realize layer 3 of his plan to trick Sunday. After retrieving a bag with useless gems, Aventurine actually returned his real cornerstone,
Piled up with these cheap baubles.
because he preemptively smashed it into pieces and mixed it up with a pile of cheap baubles. So Aventurine still had his cornerstone's powers, though they were weakened due to cornerstone being smashed, but that was enough for him. Then Aventurine tried to find Sparkle again. By acting foolish, he could attract her, and she told him that there were actually 2 mutes, one of them dead and one is still on Penacony. At this moment, Aventurine finally connected the dots. Mutes are not those who lost their voice, but rather those who have been to other side of Penacony's dream, behind Harmony's barrier.
Someone who survived the treacherous depths, but is unable to take the stage and speak the truth.
Now, Aventurine knew what to do. He decided to sacrifice his life to get to the other side of the dream and at the same time destroy the family's reputation, allowing IPC to take actions because their ambassador is being killed in Penacony's dream, which was claimed to be safe and protected by Harmony. For that, Aventurine entered the stage, invited everybody in Dreamville, including Trailblazer and Acheron, and started the show. Finally, Aventurine yet again won his bet. Though he didn't know emanator of what path Acheron was, luckily for him, her final hit sent him directly behind Harmony's barrier, making him dead for everybody. I'm not sure about this, but I think her blast also woke up everybody in Golden Hour. At least Trailblazer, who stood directly in the epicenter of the explosion, was sent to gap between dreams. Anyway, that's it for now for the story of Aventurine. I know it was very long, it's just that his story is most important and revealing at this state of game.
Galaxy Ranger Acheron.
Izumo was one of 2 planets circling a black hole. One day, a faction called Yaoyorozu no Kami, consisting of demons, invaded Izumo with the intent to kill its people. However, the people fought back, destroying one of the demons and forging a weapon from its body. Eventually, a total of 12 such weapons were created. People find a way to use the power contained in the demon's body's remains, which turned them into Oni. Oni is practically a mix of human and demon, but still, it wasn't enough, as all of the 12 swords were eventually broken. So, Izumo created 2 more, Origin, which was wielded by Acheron, and End. But the battles never ended, rendering it all worthless. These 2 swords were also broken. At this point, Acheron understood that it was all for nothing, because no matter what people do, their planet will eventually fall into the black hole. The Lost Blade, Not, was forged, and due to unknown reasons, Acheron turned into a emanator of nihility. This is strange, because IX nihility gives no glances. Boothill even says she's an emanator
who should not exist.
Also, she even tells Aventurine that it doesn't matter that everybody will face predetermined death, the path itself is what matters.
There are countless things that humans cannot change. But before the end, there are many things that humans can do while on their journey.
Moreover, in her character description, you'll see this: the elusive nihility beckons her towards self-annihilation, yet she subtly holds its reins. So, does Acheron, as a manifestation of nihility's will, go against her path? Anyways, one day she decides to go to Penacony for nothing.
I'm not looking for anything.
I'm not sure if it's another translation issue, because if she says I'm not looking for anything, it would mean she has no goal, and that's okay for nihility. But if she says I'm looking for nothing, it would mean she's specifically looking for nihility. Then Acheron reveals that the path she walks is not what she wants.
Even if that's not what I want.
So probably she became an emanator unwillingly because she was enveloped by IX's shadow, but was able to rise from it.
The nihility envelops everyone equally. Only some who have gone under their shadow can go farther.
But you just wait, I'll give it a better answer by the end of this video. Before parting, she states her goal: to reach nihility's end.
Before they vanish completely, I will reach the nihility's end.
The upper text, though, is referring to Device IX faction, and presumably she wants to reach their end before they vanish. Unfortunately, we don't know anything about them, or even whether they exist. There's nothing even on Wikipedia. Anyway, before arriving at Penacony, he killed Duke Inferno, but a suspicious part about that event is we cannot be sure if it happened in reality or a dream, because she told him to wake up.
May death be the end of your boundless dream, guiding you back to the waking world.
After finishing her business, she finally arrives at Penacony, and indeed, as if she had no goal, she just walked around the streets, visited a ball, and waited for no one. Black Swan noticed Acheron and asked her for a dance. Black Swan tried to read Acheron's memories, which will cause her to run her own investigation about who Acheron really is, but I'll tell you about that later when we talk about Black Swan's story. For now, let's continue with Acheron. A bit later, she met our Trailblazer in a dreamscape, and now we know why. It's because of Memoria's ability to melt people's dreams. Now, the interesting thing about the moment before Trailblazer's awakening is its similarity to Ifrit's death, because here too, Acheron tells Trailblazer to wake up and then slashes her with the blade.
You can return to the waking world. That's where we all find our answers.
After some time, events of 2.0 story occur, our fight with Sam and all, and after Trailblazer and Black Swan teleported away, Acheron almost wanted to use her blade on Sam, but then noticed it's not time yet. Acheron immediately saw that Sam is just Firefly wearing armor. From this conversation, we also learn that Acheron is wanted by IPC and knows almost everything about Stellar Hunters. Finally, she stated her intentions again, but this time she said she is after Watchmaker's legacy.
If your goal is the Watchmaker's legacy, then go look into the family.
Already on it.
Later, in Golden Hour, Acheron eavesdrops on Astral Express's conversation, and after most of the members left, she spoke to Elt. She said that the collapse of this beautiful dream is inevitable, and that it comes from the family. And then, for a third time, she stated a different goal.
My trip to Penacony is solely to fulfill an old, final request.
After having a few drinks, Acheron and Welt went out on a little trip, discussing their past and findings about Penacony's case. Then they went to Sunday's office and skimmed through this lore room. For real, what the hell? Why is there so much text? Moreover, the text is very important to understand the story, and why the hell everybody can enter Sunday's office so easily? Anyway, let me spare you this time. They found out that the Sunday indeed really cares about his sister, that Robin lost her harmony voice after arriving at Penacony due to impurities in the harmony itself caused by one of the family's member. At least that is where her investigation brought her. By the way, Sunday ran his investigation too and had 52 suspects. Reading all of this was such a chore. For now it doesn't even make sense, but it will later. Looking at all the cases showed that the trigger for death is connected to sight and that it attacks only in dark places. Also, they found a letter from Oti from the Alfalfa family, who were responsible for Penacony's financial side, and he was not very pleased, to say the least, that Sunday is wasting resources and manpower to find the culprit behind the killing of his sister, instead of preparations for the Charmony festival. But then I have a question for you. How did Oti plan to run festival without main singer? A little bit suspicious, don't you think? So either Robin is alive and Sunday is just a psycho who thinks he lost his sister, or what he never needed any artist at the Charmony festival, which can mean only one thing. My speculation now, but his stop investigating and prepare for festival fixation seems really ominous. My theory is that Oti himself could be the cause of Robin's lost voice and impurities in harmony. As for why, I think it's because as a financial leader, he naturally wants to control all Penacony, so he wants to set up for other families. But at this point, this theory is unprovable, so just forget it. Suddenly, Sunday himself appeared and had a little conversation with our friends. He also told them about what happened to Aventurine. After that, Acheron and Welt reunited with the rest of the team and went for Aventurine together. They had a fight, you know all this. Finally, Aventurine's taunting works and makes Acheron to use her blade to destroy Preservation's barrier along with Harmony's. That's it for Acheron for now. Now really quick about less significant characters for the current state of game.
You're awake, lazy bug.
We don't know for certain what goals she has coming to Penacony, and her vague explanation to collect memories isn't too convincing. But her story we know of starts at the ball, where she invites Acheron for a dance. During the dance, she tried to read Acheron's memories, and she was shocked by what she saw. Acheron's past was very cruel, to say the least. So it piqued Black Swan's interest, and she decided to run an investigation to get to the bottom of this. Black Swan entered Acheron's room and basically touched her stuff to read memories from objects. And suddenly, objects can contain memories too. She found the music box and was able to restore memories moments after Ifrit got his invitation. But as for what happened later, as we know, Acheron is nihility, so naturally the memory of Ifrit being annihilated was erased. Then, by some mysterious means, Constance, Ifrit's daughter, contacted Black Swan, whichever made her ask,
Is this not a memory?
Now isn't that suspicious that a very powerful and experienced memo keeper can't tell memories and dreams apart? And because of that, I have two theories. Either this is a memory and Constance pre-recorded her speech in case a memo keeper would find this memory so she can help to reveal who is Acheron, or this is not a memory and Constance somehow remotely spoke to Black Swan because Constance clearly said that neither she nor her sister will be visiting Penacony. After that, she somehow made Boothill call Black Swan. At first, he thought the memo keeper was helping Acheron, but as it turned out, they are both on the same side.
My name is Firefly.
Stellaron Hunter's intentions are pretty clear. Firefly's goal, according to Elio's script, is to lead Astral Express to Watchmaker's legacy. I'll skip the part of how we met, since we all know the story. Let's jump straight to the moment when Sparkle puts Trailblazer and Firefly into a deeper level of a dreamscape to show them the truth. Though unintended, it was of a great help for Firefly, since she was now a step closer to Watchmaker's legacy. After her first encounter of death, Firefly didn't leave the deep dreamscape as Trailblazer did, because she intended to explore farther. Then death impaled her, and now I am mostly sure what her
Sorry.
meant. I think she was sorry for not being able to evade Elio's script and tell the truth to Trailblazer in an easier way. But wait a sec, Elio's script is a fate itself. It's predetermined and everything will go according to it. So what did Firefly mean by
11 times I've tried to escape the constraints of the script.
My guess is that because the dreamscape is not reality, there is no strict script to a dream. Anything can happen in a dream. Moreover, because of Firefly's illness, she's gradually fading away from reality, which can be because of her having a
Script has always been brief.
As for why Firefly became intertwined with this world, it is still a mystery. It might be connected to Watchmaker's legacy or Memoria's effect, but all of this is only my speculation. We need more info for that. At last, Firefly mentioned
You and I will reap unforgettable gains.
written in the script for both her and Trailblazer, which kinda gives me hope that maybe she can be cured. Now finally, after a long prologue, we can actually start with Penacony's story. Penacony is a giant structure that was built near or around Macrovoid, originated from a memory zone, practically a black hole, maybe even IX, Eon of Nihility themselves. So a lot of mysterious memoria leaked from this Macrovoid. But what is memoria? We don't know for certain, but we know that memoria can capture consciousnesses, or something like that, because it is known for its ability to mix, blend and overlap people's dreams, emotions and memories. Just my speculation now, but memoria could possibly be a spreading shadow of IX, or to put it simple, a gravitational disk of a black hole, since we know from reality, almost nothing, even light, can escape the gravitational trap of a black hole, with one exception, if the object is passing by on a fleeting trajectory. In this case, the object will be only sped up and sent away from a black hole, but I got carried away. Penacony once was a prison of the IPC. Prisoners were sent to Penacony to help Guardian of Recollection absorb memoria to stop it from spreading. After some time, a mysterious phenomenon affected prisoners. Their dreams started to overlap. At some point, all prisoners were living a second life in their dreams, but eventually even good dreams couldn't save them from miserable conditions in reality. So one of the prisoners, Hanunu, with a silly name, started to plan an escape. Under his lead, many factions, including even Trailblazers, began to realize this plan. And at some point, all this turned into a war against IPC. Eventually, the prisoners won and took control over Penacony. Nevertheless, they had limited resources and means to live, conflicts between prisoners and outer threats. So one of the rebels, a Trailblazer, Watchmaker, came up with the idea to cooperate with the family to create a planet of festivities with a sweet dream, probably to attract money, resources, people and other means to live to Penacony. And this is how Penacony we know started to exist. But at some point, for unknown reasons, the creator of Penacony and the family became enemies. Maybe Watchmaker didn't like that the family took full control over Penacony, or their visions on how to handle the dreamscape didn't match, because the family built high walls around this small island.
That barrier they build keeps death out, but it also keeps the secrets that are lost in that watery abyss from floating to the surface.
Maybe that turned them against each other. But whatever the reason is, time passed and the Watchmaker died, or hid from the family. After some time, Watchmaker himself, or someone impersonating him, if we assume that he died, sent invitations to every faction to find his legacy against the family's will, and the family only allowed Watchmaker to do so because this was the only way to spot him. This is where Astral Express's journey on Penacony begins. Meanwhile, IPC wants to reclaim whole Penacony, as it initially belonged to them. Since the family didn't even reply to IPC's calls, they must have done it another way, because IPC can't just invade Penacony, because among the visitors there are more important people whom even IPC can't threaten. That's why 10 Stonehearts, or particularly Aventurine, wanted to bring chaos to Penacony, to make everyone aware that the family is losing control and lying about Dream's safety, which would make them lose reputation and question their position in charge of Penacony. Now finally, let's get back to the stage. After Aventurine was killed by Acheron, he practically won, because death of an ambassador will give IPC a reason to invade Penacony and claim it. Topaz and Jade, so
the light of the Aventurine stone has disappeared.
And thus, they can begin with their part of the plan. But has Aventurine really died? Let's analyze his conversation with Acheron, because it contains the most important information bits. First, Acheron finally explained how one can become an emanator of nihility. IX indeed never glances at anybody, but its shadow envelops everyone equally, and only some can go farther, tinting themselves with more nihility, which, if you ask me, doesn't sound like equally enveloping, and this is still too vague. Like, who decides who are these some? But at least now we know the process. Maybe the device IX faction is only a mystery because they cover themselves with more nihility, thus making their existence questionable for others outside the shadow. Second, the place where this conversation is happening is a dream, and a dream turns out to be one of thousands manifestations of IX, and that's exactly why I think that Penacony is situated near no ordinary macrovoid, but one of IX's instances, and that's why this dream phenomenon I was talking about earlier occurred in the first place. By the way, fun fact, during Black Swan's ultimate, she says,
"Beneath the silent waters lies an endless abyss.
And this is another argument for this dream being created by IX, because this is exactly what Aventurine sees, ocean and a black hole. Now let's discuss whether Aventurine died or not. These are arguments against it.
We momentarily linger here before moving on to our own paths.
Momentarily linger here, moving to our paths? That doesn't sound like death to me. It sounds more like entering the black hole's gravitational field before leaving it again, as I described earlier.
My death has already been determined.
Even if you wish for it, I can't promise you anything.
So she can't promise him he'll necessarily die.
To use this dream death to get there. To that promised land people constantly seek in this grand gathering.
Dream death doesn't sound like a valid term for death to me.
I can also carve the Harmony's brand off of you.
Why would she want to draw Harmony off of a person that is about to die? That's pointless.
Your prize is an entry ticket into that deep sea.
This either doesn't sound like something said to that person. On the contrary, Aventurine got nothing other than a ticket to a watchmaker's legacy.
Wake up from this dream and go to where you should be.
Do you still remember two other occasions when we hear Acheron saying, "Wake up"?
Guiding you back to the waking world. You can return to the waking world.
So is Trailblazer dead too?
Sleep is the rehearsal of death, because we are not ready to welcome death.
Rehearsal of death is not death.
Then are you going to?
I'll get there one day, but not now. There will come a day when the sky will drizzle, and I will hear the call of Gallagher Triclops. Know that it is time for me to go, and be reunited with my family.
And now even Aventurine said, it's not the time to die. Moreover, it's not coming anytime soon. So we have at least 8 reasons to believe he's alive. However, let's look at the final words. At last landed on its earthy rest. So many things point out to him being alive. But what could early rest mean if not death? Also, the doctor's advice Ratio gave to Aventurine reads, death is not impossible in a dream, but rather dormancy. What does this mean? Dormancy is a period in organism's life cycle when growth, development, and physical activity are temporarily stopped. Acheron states that this dream is temporary, so what does this all mean? Way before, Acheron and even Ifrit said, impossible is yet to happen.
The so-called impossible is merely something that is yet to happen.
Maybe this is an instance of impossible happening. Maybe this is exactly what happened to the Watchmaker too. Because I believe the Watchmaker is still alive in a dream in the form of dormancy, just like Aventurine. For everybody, he's dead, but in fact, he's alive. And here's the proof. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of 2.0. Remember this note?
Note?
So, Watchmaker is still alive, and it was he, I mean the real one, who sent the invitations. And in order to meet him and explore Watchmaker's legacy, one has to find the impossible, dormancy. And as Acheron said, only some can survive on the other side of the dream. But we know of 2 people who crossed the Harmony's border before Aventurine. Robin, who is assumably dead for real, and Firefly, who survived. I think in 2.2, Firefly is the one who will tell us what's there in the deep ocean of the dream. But let's get back to the Watchmaker. What did I mean by saying the real one? Well, let's talk about Gallagher. Now listen to that moment without context.
Any schemes out in the open are always going to be better than a monster in the shadows.
In Sunday's documents, sight and attack in dark places are pointed out.
Monster in the shadow.
In the end cutscene, Gallagher lights his lighter, and as soon as he puts it out,
the whole thing is just fate playing a cruel joke on us.
no monsters are in the room. Death that killed Sunday was his very own shadow. But why did Gallagher do that? And how is he 13?
How old are you now, Mr. Officer?
I'm 13.
Well, the latter question is easy to answer. He didn't say years, so it might be as well Ember Eras, which will perfectly fit. As for the former, pure speculation. He's indeed one of Mikhail's kids, who now stole or inherited his father's title, because it makes no sense to say Watchmaker is a traitor and then killing yet another family member. But who is he? Well, you probably know he is someone or something that stole traits of 52 suspects from the family. As for what motives he has, I think he was pretty honest there.
If it really is Mikhail's ghost, I want to meet him. If only for the last time.
He just wants to meet his father again. Probably that's why he wants to destroy the family from the inside. As we know, at least according to my theory, Mikhail is right now on the other side of the dream. And the Harmony's barrier prevents both sides of dream from being crossed. The high walls prevent death from entering the sweet dream, but it hides all the secrets.